Good evening, everybody. My name is Dr. Mike Scruggs, and on behalf of the Black Man Think Tank, I want to thank you both for joining us for this one of a kind forum, if nothing else. Do me a favor and both state your names for everybody.
Oh, okay. I'm Vice Mayor Jan Michele Lemon Kearney.
I'm Laketa Cole, candidate.
All right, let's get down to
right.
brass tacks.
Let's
So
go.
let's go to the first question. So number one, and I'll start with you, Jan. What is your strategy to ensure that public and private investments don't just reach downtown, but also uplift neighborhoods like Avondale, Bond Hill, and the West End?
So we have to be intentional and vocal about that. So let me give the railway sale as an example. When we were having that debate, a lot of people from the Black community, for example, said they were afraid that the money wouldn't go into their community. So Scotty and I developed the Rising 15. We said if we're going to sell the railway, and he never voted for it because he said we never really passed the equity part of it. But I felt good that we had an equity policy that we knew that council would follow. And so it was about looking at the neighborhoods that we're not invested in and to track where the money's going. I mean, we can't just assume it's going to go where it needs to go. So we have to track it, we have to see it. So now we have an Office of Opportunity that, again, Scotty and I put forth, and so we opened it, and one of their jobs is closing the wealth gap, and that includes tracking how the money is spent.
I appreciate that. So, Ms. Laketa, once again, I'll repeat the question. What is your strategy, excuse me, to ensure that public and private investments don't just reach downtown, but also uplift neighborhoods like Avondale, Bond Hill, and the West End?
Sure, thank you for that question. I think it's, as the Vice Mayor indicated, that you definitely have to be intentional. And one of the things that I find that is the issue, sometimes our projects in our community are not shovel ready and don't have all the I's dotted and the T's crossed. And what I feel is that we, as a city point, it's our job to get them there. It's our job to reach down and lift them up as opposed to expecting them to be there. That's the difference between an example where you have a Hyde Park and a Bond Hill. We may not have all those expertise in that community, or those people that are in a community may be there but not as engaged as they are in other neighborhoods. And so I think when it comes with the city, with them opening up the opportunity office, that we need to make sure that we're at the table. And that's what's important, because a lot of times we're not even at the table. We're at the back end trying to get to the table. And so for me, we need to make sure that, one, we stop and think about, okay, what's happening? When we developed the TIF districts, when I was on council, at one point it was only in certain neighborhoods. I needed to make sure that it was reaching out to all the neighborhoods. And so now, for example, we have a TIF district in Bond Hill. We have TIF districts not just in the not just in the more majority, or what I'm going to say, the white neighborhoods. I'm just going to be frank. We have them in the other communities as well. So it is something that we have to make sure that we provide the communication to these community councils as well, and let them know that it's happening.
She's right about that. That's a real good point. Yeah, you have to make sure that the wealth is spread and that we don't concentrate it. Can I say this about making sure things aren't just in OTR?
And I was going to ask, as a tie-in for both of you, how do we also, with that, prevent it from becoming that revitalization turning into gentrification?
Yeah, because we can't displace people. I mean, we've done a lot of displacement. OTR went from,
absolutely.
In 2010, it was about 75% Black. 4 years later, by 2014, it was 75% white. And our neighborhoods are segregated like that. And so we have to be more intentional about making sure that as we have development and prices start going up, we make sure that there's some prices that are affordable, some housing that's affordable, so the people who live there can stay there. I mean, that's just like my office did the property tax relief, because home values went up, property taxes went up, and so people were afraid of losing their homes. So we said, well, here's relief for people who can't afford to actually pay those higher taxes, so that they don't lose their homes, they don't have to leave their neighborhoods. That's very important. Everybody should share of the amenities. You know, we talk about all this development, thriving neighborhoods. Let's make sure the people, the legacy residents, get to enjoy that too.
Legacy, I
Good
like
point.
that.
I like that. I like that. I think what she makes a very good point. I think what's also important, that when you're talking about those developments and things that are going on, we also have to make sure, because I'm gonna tell you, I know 3CDC and Port Authority was never supposed to be the animal that it is today when it was first formed. And what I have a concern and a problem with is we keep on saying, well, how do we pull back from it? You pull back because you stop investing and giving them the dollars. What used to happen is those homes that were maybe sitting vacant, as opposed to allowing the Port Authority to snatch them up, we'll allow the residents to get them for $1, and they fix them up. And I've often said this story. You know, you see it. We have various buildings that are falling apart. As opposed to letting the port get it, we need to let the different organizations get it. I mean, we have a great, you know, and I say this, the African American, and I've said this. It's funny to say this now because of people that are in the room, but I use this story often. But the African American firehouse that was there, that was falling apart, you know, at one point. And I'm sure had the African American firefighters not took it over, that would have been something that a Port Authority would have taken and it would have raised that, and it would have just been a vacant lot. It was a great program because he was able to get it for $1, and now look at it. And that's what needs to happen. We have several people that was able to purchase their home for $1, and we provided the resources necessary for them to fix their homes and get it, as opposed to the port. That doesn't happen now. Now the port is gobbling up everything. We have a lot right now in Bond Hill that is vacant because the port has it. It used to be Charlie's Carpet and all those beautiful businesses that were there that's closed down because, you know, they gotten older and things like that. Why would you not allow the residents in the community or the community council to buy those properties, as opposed to continuing to allow the port, and now they're coming in and they're developing things that the community doesn't even want in their neighborhoods?
That's excellent. That the dollar home program is something I would love to see come back. I have friends too who bought a home for $1 and fixed them up. But we do have a quick strike program now, you know, to your point, so that community councils, community groups can actually use that money, home-based manages it, to buy property. They might not even know what they want to do with it yet, but it's to say that they have control over it, and then they decide what to do. We just had the Winton Hills Community Council to buy the Mother of Christ Church, plus the 4 acres of land around it, which I think is going to be an urban farm, but it's going to be their community center. And so that was huge. That's going to be huge. I mean, they just closed on that last month.
And it's a great thing, but the problem that I have is that sometimes it doesn't happen because the port able to come in faster than the neighborhoods in the community and move faster. And so they're moving faster than I think it happened in Winton Hills, only because the Port Authority didn't want the property. You see what I'm saying?
Well, also because we pushed for it, though.
I'm just saying, you know, if the Port Authority wanted, they would have been like, well, we have the dollars, we're ready. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So sometimes I think, like, you all were intentional to make sure that it wasn't, and that's the same thing. It has to happen in all the neighborhoods. So
and let me ask this too.
Because Winton Hills said they wanted it, and we said they've got to have it. And so
let's touch on hot button topic right now is violence in our city. And so, number one, what do you believe are some of the root causes for the violence in our city? And then what is your plan to address it? And I'll let Laketa start, because coming back to council times, you know, some things they say that as much as time changes, things stay the same. So there was violence then, there's violence now, and of course there's figuring out how we manage it based on situations and circumstances. So kind of speak to being able to address it.
Sure, yes. It's funny, people say, well, it wasn't like that, it wasn't as bad when you were on council. I think the time has changed. I certainly don't believe, and you can't point the finger at everything, because somebody who wants to commit a crime, they're going to commit the crime. However, there were different opportunities, and I think the root causes are the racial disparities that are happening. I don't think we need to not tippy-toe around it. There's 2 cities in Cincinnati. We know there is. There's a tale of 2 cities, and we need to stop playing like it's not. And it happened even when you see the 2 racial brawls that happened. You know, you had what happened downtown, and you had what happened at UC. Nobody even really heard what happened at UC. Yeah. You know, the same thing. People were hurt. You know, jaws broken, all those type of things, but you didn't hear it. That tells you there's a tale of 2 cities, because of the simple fact. Guess what? Who was involved? So,
because I think the one at AUC, there were more white people fighting, and the black people were pulling them off.
Exactly.
And so they didn't want to show that.
Exactly. So for me, I think the thing is not so much of throwing money at the police, because you can't police your way out of this situation.
That's right.
Because what needs to happen is that we need to develop programs that are beneficial to the community and our young people. One of the things the Vice Mayor and I were at Woodward 2 weeks ago, and we were hearing from the young people. I took a different approach because usually we come in there and we speak. Well, I didn't want to be mean, but I don't want to hear from them. I'm here because I want to have an opportunity. I want to hear from these young people. I want to hear what's going on. And so they were kind of quiet, but when you all left, they actually started speaking up when it was just me one-on-one with them. And one of the things that you find that they're hanging out on the street because they have nowhere to go. And we say, oh, we have recreation centers, because I brought that pointed to them. And they was like, yeah, but they close early. You know, they talked about the morning hours, the summer hours. They open up at 7:30, and some of them were closing, you know, they open up at 7, they're closing at 7. Who's going at 7 o'clock in the morning in the first place? Seniors not even going at 7 o'clock in the morning. So why would you have those hours? Why would you not change the hours around? What we found in Cleveland, I think it's Cleveland or Columbus, when they had the rec center stay open later to 12 o'clock at night, the crime rate dropped. And so you provided them an opportunity somewhere to go. Not only that,
A positive, safe place.
Right,
Yeah.
and you have to be welcoming. Our recreation centers right now are not welcoming. Our young people, you know what they said? They want a place for them to go after school. I said, well, there's recreation centers. You got Bond Hill for Woodward. You got College Hill for Aiken. So we have them. You got Madisonville, and you know. But the thing is, they don't feel like they're welcome. They said when they want something to eat, they can't even call Uber Eats to get them something to eat. If they leave to go to the store, they can't come back in. Now, us as adults, we leave and come back as many times as we want to. So they don't feel welcome. So we have to start, and that's something they ask for. They're not playing, all of them are not playing sports. So give them somewhere where they can hang out outside of school and outside of going to a game. Why not? And you can designate certain days. These days are for Woodward students only in the evening. You see what I'm saying? So you don't have to worry about the cross. Also, when I was on council, you know, CCY went away, but I made sure that we still had that youth employment program. And what I did is I took it a little further, is with the RFP, I made sure that we have a life skill portion of it, that we're teaching these young people, you know, financial literacy, budgeting, interviewing skills, letter writing, all these different things, and providing them. We bring in speakers that, I mean, doctors and lawyers, no offense, but kids want to talk to people like them. And they need to tell them how they overcame and what happened to them. And this is the steps I went down, but I came back, and this is what I'm able to do. That's what they want to hear. And so that was my program that I did, and we put it out to RFP. It's gone now. I know you're talking about bringing it back, but I'm like, bringing it back, it should have never left.
And I'll allow Vice Mayor to jump in with the same question in terms of the root cause of violence in our city, and then also plans to address it.
Yeah, let me respond to the rec centers. I hear what you're saying, because we've heard that too. And so our Cincinnati Recreation Director is really fantastic. He's from Chicago, Daniel Betts, and he really wants to make the rec centers more welcoming. And also he wants to change the hours. I mean, that's a good point, because you know, kids come after school and they're not necessarily ready to go at the time that the rec centers close. And so he is looking at how to change the hours in places like Price Hill, where the young people said, you know, we want to have a gaming room. And so now they're working on providing a gaming room for them. The other thing, we have a youth to work program that is wonderful. It does have, my son was in it one summer, and it had, you know, financial literacy classes, and like, you know, what are your goals in life? Do you want to go to college? Do you want to be skilled? Do you want to learn a trade? I mean, it really made them start to look at goals, which is excellent. I would like to see that expanded year round. And so, to your point, we keep hearing about CCY. CCY was so great. It was around for, I think, like, 50 years, and then it ended. And everybody keeps saying, you know, CCY saved my life. So CCY was great because it did have year-round jobs for our young people. You know, everybody complains about them. They want to manage them. They're down on Government Square. They're at Oakley Station. You know, they're wreaking havoc. Well, let's channel that energy into something positive. After school job with mentors and tutors, because some people really hate school because they're struggling in it. Let's help them be successful. You know, you're not going to want to go to a place where you're failing. You want to go to a place that makes you feel good. And so that was part of CCY, like really building up our kids. And so we're working on that. I tried to get in this last budget fight that we had on City Council $1 million to expand youth to work. That didn't work, and that's when we were talking about that 5.4 million for safety, which I think some of that was not spent
That's
correctly.
okay. We'll get it when I'm on council with you.
All right. Some of that was not spent correctly. But I mean, some of it was good, but some of it was not spent correctly. And I thought we could have taken some of that money and put it into our youth programming. But, more to come. I'm not giving up on that. You can say no once or twice, 3 or 4 times. I'm going to just keep coming back.
Eat those for breakfast.
That's right. I eat no for breakfast. I love it.
And so let me ask this last question to both of you.
Did you want me to talk about violence
Oh,
for
yes,
a minute?
yes. Sorry, go ahead.
I also wanted to point out that one thing with the violence in the city is that it's not like the city's unsafe, but we've got hot spots. We've got gun violence that, like many cities across the country, it's not unique to Cincinnati. There are hot spots where there's gun violence, and we've got to do something about that. And one thing is we have to deal with the active shooters. That's something people don't want to do. But there are programs to actually transform lives of people who are in there. Now, why are you an active shooter in the first place? You didn't just wake up and say, I want to be out there shooting on the street. There's probably trauma involved, probably poverty involved, maybe abuse. I mean, there are a lot of reasons that people end up in that lifestyle. Maybe that's the lifestyle they were born into. That's what they know. So you've got to look at the life of the person and say, how do we change your life? I know a lot of people who used to be in that life, and now they're not, and they're what we call credible messengers, where they can actually work with young people and say, look, I've been there, done that, been to the, penitentiary,
Right.
I lived that life. This is not what you want to do, and help them change.
We got to declare war on childhood trauma. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things we haven't done.
Declare
we
war
haven't
on childhood trauma.
declared
Exactly.
a war on childhood trauma
Yeah.
because that's what happens. These kids, it's not just they grew up seeing these things. They grew up seeing shooting. They grew up seeing, and they are dealing with trauma, and we don't recognize it. You hear always hurt people hurt people.
That's
and
right.
that's what is happening. So
That's
these
right.
kids are now desensitized because they grew up seeing somebody getting shot, and no one has actually talked to them to deal with their trauma. We just brush it on feel like they think they got over it, and
Right.
they don't. And I say that, I lost my father recently, and was my good friend to my son. I'm thinking he's over it. He's 8. He's over it. Well, guess what? The other day it came up,
Still
and
grieving.
he's bawling, so he's still grieving.
Right.
I'm trying to be strong so I don't break down in front of him because it's my father, but not realizing at the end of the day, he's grieving and don't know how to deal with it because I haven't grieved around him to let him grieve.
Right.
And so
It's something we have to learn.
Yes, we
something
have to learn that. So
learn.
we have to realize that these kids are dealing with trauma. They're not just killing each other because of that, but we also have to deal with those, like you said, the root causes. It's also the systematic racism that they deal with as well. At school, at home. It's a lot, and we haven't peeled those layers of that onion.
As their parents deal with that too. So there's just a lot of stress to go around. Can I just throw out this though, because every chance I get, I want to talk about Advanced Peace and how that's a really good program that works across the country and cities where we've used, and that's a program that deals with active shooters. I mean, they call them fellows. They don't call them active shooters, but I'm just describing the lifestyle, and they use credible messengers from the community, actually from the streets that our kids are living on, to help them change.
And so let me ask this last question for both of you. Why should Black Cincinnatians vote for you? And I know it sounds like off top.
It's a good question.
Because you share the same skin.
It is a good
But of
question.
course,
I always say everybody who looks like me, not for
all
me.
skin folk ain't kinfolk.
Right.
So,
That's true.
so speak. I'll let whichever one wants to jump in there in terms of, and give it a minute and a half in terms of a quick response on why Black Cincinnatians should vote for you.
So let me just start by saying, I work for all people, but I'm also very intentional about the Black community. I grew up in Avondale, still live in Avondale, and went to Cincinnati Public Schools, and I know that our neighborhoods have been ignored. They've been underinvested in. We need more economic opportunity for people, Black people and brown people, low-income people. There are a lot of people who are talking about poverty is an issue. Poverty is very high in Cincinnati. It's more than twice the national average. For Black people, poverty is 3 times the national average in Cincinnati. We've got to attack that. People need economic opportunities. So Victoria Parks and I, for example, brought a program here with the NAACP and Urban League called Building Futures to help train people from underserved communities in good union jobs, where you get, you become a welder, or, a carpenter, a plumber, electrician. You can rise up out of poverty. We're doing that in terms of our equitable development policy where we have all these infrastructure projects. We're renovating convention center. How many black people do you see doing that? How many construction folks do you see? How many construction companies do black people own, and women? And what about developers? Who's actually developing our city? So we're saying some of these big developers who've been here for generations work with some of our black developers, some of our women developers. Let's help them grow their business too. Our small business, the same thing. Small businesses are the backbone of this economy. We have a $2.8 billion with a B dollar impact in this region, 16,000 employees. I mean, we have got to support our black businesses as well. And so I'd say vote for me, because I am out there working for you. I'm always working for you, still working for you, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. So I think it's important that you do have people who are willing to stand up, step up, and speak up for our communities, and that is something I did when I was on council 16 years ago. It is something I'll continue to do, not only just standing up, stepping up, and speaking up, but more importantly, fighting for them. I am someone that they can count on. I have a voting record that I'm pleased about. I carry it around with me. If people want to know what I've done when I was on council, I can let them know. But I think it's important that you have someone that you can trust. You may not always win with me, but you do have someone that was willing to sit down and collaborate. That's what the C stands for, my name, collaboration. And O for providing opportunities for everyone to sit at the table, and not just at the end, but at the beginning. And you need leaders that are willing to listen, and that's what I'm all about. And in E, you need a leader that's going to be effective. So that's what CODE stands for: collaboration, opportunities, listening, leaders, and then being effective. And that's why I'm asking people to continue to vote for me. They remember what I've done on council. And some of the things I can say is that at that time, we were asking companies to provide felons a second chance, but yet still the city wasn't doing that. So I made sure the city is doing that we provide people a second chance, that we are not just investing in buildings, but we invest in our people.
There you go, that's right.
I did that when, as the chair of the Neighborhoods Committee, I made sure that our community was not left behind, that they were heard and they were part of the process by making sure that we had our committee meetings not in the mornings or in the afternoons, but at a time that was convenient for them, so they don't have to take off work. They can participate and understand that sometimes they may not like politics, but politics like them, especially when they're going to come to them taxes. Mm-hmm. We take that tax dollar, so we want to make sure that they're involved. So I'm that person that's going to continue to do that. I've done that before. I've not changed. I'm just a little older, a little wiser, maybe a little slower because of these knees. But at the end of the day,
you still ride that motorcycle.
Oh, I do. I still ride my motorcycle. That's my freedom of my thoughts. But I am someone that they can count on, and I'm someone who is willing to work across and can work with anyone. But they know when they come talk to me, and my door is always going to be open, that I'm going to listen to them. One thing I prided myself on when I was on council, that every letter and email that came to my office was always responded to. So they will always get a response from me, and they can count on me in realizing that at the end of the day, City Hall doesn't belong to the elected officials, it belongs to them.
And people's house. Yes,
so
it is.
I always say, when you go to the poll, vote for CODE.
Thank you, ladies. I'm super appreciative.
Okay, I need a slogan.
Yeah.
Also, what my K stands for now. Okay, I love that.
Thank you once again for your time
Thank
and
you
for
for
your
having us.
dedication to our
Yes,
city
thank you.
as well. At the pastor and me, I speak blessings over both of you
Thank you.
during the course of this these elections and everything that kind of comes with it. So
Thank
may
you.
God continue to favor you. So
All
thank
right,
you once
thank you
again.
I appreciate
so
that.
much.
Thank you. This
Thank
has been
you.
nice.
Thank you.
All right.